So it is 2:05. I've been awake since roughly 12:30 maybe. My contractions were getting stronger and more frequent. One second.
So finally getting around to Arya's birth story. So where to start? Guess we'll start the day before. So just to recap, I was scheduled for a medical induction on January 15th at 6 a.m. because my blood pressure was elevated and I was almost 42 weeks about pregnant. So my doctor just said, let's just go ahead and schedule you for an induction. The induction itself was I was very anxious about it. So on Monday, I went to work because I don't get paid leave. So every day I go is an extra day that I get to stay home and not use my vacation or my leave or anything like that. And I was like, I want to try and go naturally. And so where I worked, it's a 3-story building, 4-story kind of. So I was walking around everywhere. I was up and down the stairs as much as possible. I was really trying to stress my body out because that weekend we really stressed my body out already. And at about 10ish or so, I had to use the restroom because I was pregnant, obviously, and discovered that my mucus plug had come out, which was kind of gross. It was like a large loogie. And so that was good because a lot of time when the mucus plug comes out, it can take 24 hours to a few weeks, but considering I was almost 42 weeks, I was pretty confident it wasn't going to take very much longer for me to go into labor. And at about 12:15 is when contractions started. I really wasn't too sure, so it could have started earlier, but 12:15 is when I started noticing them, and also when I started tracking them with my contractions app on my phone. So after that, I came home, and well, I didn't come home right away. I waited for 2 hours, and so then I came home, and that's where I started basically laboring, early labor. My doctor had said, don't go to the hospital until you're 511. What that means is your contractions are 5 minutes apart for 1 minute each for an hour or more. So I was just tracking them, and they were about, on average, they were getting to be about 40 seconds, anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes apart, and that just kind of continued on. I laid on my side a lot, left to right, and nothing was really progressing. So in the evening, I decided to take a bath just to relax, and because I was also anxious and I was getting a little emotional because I was realizing I'm getting emotional again. Everything about my daughter makes me emotional. I was starting to realize that this was like the last time she was going to be in my belly. And so, kind of like separation anxiety was happening, which was good because I was stressing me out. And so after, and even in the bath, I was left to right. And after I got out, the rest of my plug came out, along with, I guess, what's considered the bloody show. So it was ready. I just had to get my contractions going, and so I went and laid back down. And that's when they really, really, really picked up. They were just more intense. They weren't longer. The timing hadn't changed. They were just getting more intense. And I was starting to feel them in my back, and they were wrapping around my belly, to the front of my belly. And so at about 8, I actually did end up falling asleep, which is pretty awesome because labor's hard. So at about 8 p.m., I just kind of like fell asleep. And then, so obviously I wasn't tracking them. I was trying to, but I just was so tired. Because the night before I had actually gotten up at 2 because I wasn't able to sleep, which kind of, I guess, should have been like a sign to because a lot of women said that the night before they went into labor, they just weren't able to sleep. So now looking back on it, that should have been a very obvious sign what was about to happen. And then at 12:15-ish, I woke up again because they were getting more intense, and I started tracking, and they were lasting longer, roughly about a minute. They were less than 5 minutes apart. They were still anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes. They were getting up to a minute or more, and so I just kind of sat there laboring, timing them and everything. And then at about 2, I was like, I want to get up. I want to take a shower again. I just felt cruddy. And so I went into our spare bathroom, and as soon as I walked in, I heard dripping and felt like water was coming out of me. And I was like, oh crap. I don't think I peed myself. So I was pretty confident it was my water breaking. And so I went and woke my husband up, and I was like, I think my water just broke. So he came and he looked, and he was like, okay, I think so, because it was liquidy, but like still kind of thick. So he took a shower. I kind of just rinsed off because no telling when I was going to be able to take a shower again. And we left to the hospital. It was about 2:30 a.m. when we left, so we got there pretty fast. I labored obviously in the truck on the way there, and because it was so early in the morning, we had to go through the ER section. And we were kind of nervous that maybe they weren't going to accept me, but as soon as we got into the ER and they took my vitals and looked me up, they admitted me because I was 3 hours away from a scheduled induction. So they were like, we're not going to send you home because you're supposed to be here at 6 anyway. So there's no reason to be less. So I got admitted automatically, went up into triage, found out that my water had not broken. Well, we're still not exactly sure because they did 2 different tests. They did a strip test. They just kind of like stick it up your vagina and look for enzymes from the amniotic fluid, and it was like a blue-green. It's supposed to be blue. If it is kind of blue, they really weren't sure. So then they tried again, and with a swab, which goes up more, and they do more with it. And same thing. They weren't sure what it was. If it was and they weren't sure. Yeah. They were just kind of like, well, we're not sure. But when I got there, I was about 4 centimeters dilated. If you've watched my other ones, I had been about a 1 centimeter dilation for 6 weeks and 100% effaced. So losing the mucus plug was basically the last of the effacement, which just means your cervix is thinned. So once triage was over, they I had to get an IV in me, which kind of sucked. They blew out 2 of my veins simply because my veins weren't cooperating. And so I actually ended up having to get a hand IV, and it sucked a lot. I hated that thing so much. I actually had a bump for it a while, but it's gone now. And it was really nice though, because then that's how I started getting a saline solution, because you can't drink water. So that's how I was keeping hydrated. And then after triage was over, I got moved to my delivery room and got all blood pressured up and hooked up, and I got my blood pressure taken, and it was about 140/90, so not too surprising. And then I also got hooked up well, I wasn't hooked up, but they put a monitor on me, which was a wireless monitor, so all it was on my belly. So we were able to hear her heartbeat, and they were able to monitor my contractions. But her heartbeat we started realizing her heartbeat would speed up right before a contraction. So once we got to the delivery room and I was all set up, I just labored there for roughly 6 or so hours. So yeah, this is going to be part 1 because I'm a highly detailed person. So I'm going to try to film part 2 as soon as possible. She's actually sleeping right now, so that's why I also want to put them into parts, because I don't know if I can make them all one big video. But yeah, look out for part 2. It should be coming pretty soon.